Hi, I'm Evan from Top Whiskies, and today I'm trying Double Cask from Rampur, and I'm very excited. I'm excited for two reasons. First, didn't know this whiskey came in a bag, which is exciting in and of itself. I always think more whiskey should come in bags. Anyway, no, what gets me really excited about trying this whiskey, Double Cask, is the maturation. So there are two things that I think are really cool about this whiskey, or I expect to be really cool when I try it. The first is the fact that it's finished in 2 casks, which, hence the name. 2/3 of it come from American Bourbon casks, and 1/3 comes from European sherry. And I always think it's really interesting when you get to try whiskeys that are a mix or a blend between two. The way they make this, it spends sort of the first portion of its life in American bourbon, and then it's transferred into European sherry. And again, I think that gives some interesting notes and complexities. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a single cask sherry or a bourbon as much as anyone else, but sometimes you like to do things that are a bit interesting. The other thing that gets me really excited about trying this whiskey is that it's from India. It's quite obvious because it does say right on the bottle that it's from India. This is actually coming from a distillery that's been in operation since 1943 in India. They make whiskey, rum, all kinds of different spirits, but whiskey is something that they specialize in. And it's really interesting to try whiskeys from India, and I've not had as many as I'd really like to. What makes a whiskey from India different than a whiskey from Scotland is the maturation period. And so if you were to go to Scotland and have a whiskey that was less than 12 years old, you probably wouldn't be thinking about it in the sort of premium category. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing whiskeys that are less than 12 years old from Scotland, but probably not on the premium end. Whereas in India, it's very different because, and this is true, it's hotter in India than it is in Scotland. If you don't believe me, you can look it up. This is a fact. And what that means is that the maturation process is very different in India than it is in Scotland. Because of that heat, it means that it doesn't take quite as long for the whiskey to mature. It also means that you can't have it last for quite so long. You've probably come across the term angel share before, and in Scotland, about 2% of the whiskey evaporates from the cask every year. In India, it's much, much quicker, but as a result, it means that the whiskey matures a lot faster. And so it's interesting to see whiskeys that come from India and compare them to whiskeys from Scotland. At least it's interesting if you're a massive whiskey dork, like me. And I'm probably guessing you if you're watching this video. If you're not a whiskey dork and you're watching this video, yeah, you're probably not going to have a very good time. But let's give this a go, because I am really excited to give this a try. Always a good sound to start off with. So the color is really nice. Again, a lot of that, this color will be coming from that European sherry. On the nose, it's got a really nice strong nose, quite cereal grain on the nose. And it's got a lot of flavor on the palate, which again is something that I'd expect from an Indian whiskey, because you're going to get a lot of interaction with the wood, a lot of change, a lot of flavor coming through. So I think the first thing that stands out to me with this whiskey is the sweetness. It's definitely more on the sweet side, which is good for me. I like sweet things. It's sort of that kind of like baker's sugar, like refined, like sugar that you put into a cake kind of sugar. So not like a boiled sweet, but it's got a lot of sugar in it. Well, not actual sugar in it, but it tastes like it's got sugar in it, and I really like that. The alcohol itself is well integrated. It's 45% alcohol, so not too punchy, but it's got enough alcohol in it that it has a lot of flavor. But it's not prickly on the palate, which I certainly appreciate. So that's good. The body is probably somewhere in between like a light body and a full body. You definitely don't get that mouth coating feel that you get from like a Glenfarclas, but it's certainly not light bodied either. Like I said, it's probably somewhere in between, and I suspect that's going to be because of the European oak in it. Now, moving on to the flavor itself, I don't know if I'd say it's overly intense. It's probably somewhere in between. It's giving lots of nice, that sweetness coming through, a bit of vanilla maybe, that's probably coming from the American Bourbon oak. Really nice. I think though, I'm going to try adding just a little bit of water to this one. So for my palate, I kind of like to add a bit of water sometimes, because I think with whiskeys like this, it will unlock the flavor a bit more. So let's give it a go. Yeah, so for me, that little bit of water makes a really big difference. It unlocks it. To me, it creates a lot more flavor. I definitely recommend always adding a bit of water to whiskey if you want to see different flavors coming through. The higher the ABV, the more water you might want to think about adding, because it's going to change the profile. Don't get me wrong, I also like having a cask strength whiskey without adding water too. I think it's good, but you can appreciate some different nuances and some different flavors coming through, particularly with this single malt Indian whiskey. And I think to me, the thing that stands out the most about this whiskey is the finish. It's got a really long finish. And I like that. I think that for a whiskey that is maybe not super complex in flavor, it's got some really strong notes on the palate, but the finish itself lasts for a really long time, and I'm still enjoying this finish. So definitely that's an outstanding feature to this for me. Let me know what you think of this whiskey. You can drop me an email. I'm Evin@topwhiskies.com. But I definitely recommend giving this a go, particularly if you've not had a lot of Indian whiskey. And if you're someone that's interested in maturation. Because like I said, I think this has two cool elements as far as maturation. Being finished in two different casks, and the fact that it's been matured in a hot environment like India. Definitely worth giving it a go. Cheers.